My presentation is on midwifery in the state of Wisconsin. These are the topics that I will be touching on, but I am anxious to get going as there is so much to share. There were numerous Native American tribes with their indigenous midwives prior to the 1800s when settlers in Wisconsin were primarily served by German and Polish immigrants who had trained in Europe. According to research by Professor Charlotte Borscht, the European trained midwives were proud of their education and disdainful of the unlicensed, uneducated, and in their opinion, unskilled American midwives. There were two midwifery schools in Milwaukee near the end of the century, but both reinforced the concept of physician control over education. According to Varney and Thompson in The History of Midwives, the midwife said, "Fear not." Then in the 1920s, the campaign by the American Medical Association began to systematically force most midwives out of practice in Wisconsin, until lay midwifery made its resurgence in the 1970s. Nurse midwives began practicing in the US after the Second World War, but in the 1970s, Wisconsin still had some of the most restrictive and ill-defined statutes for nurse midwifery of any state in the United States. My first interview was with certified professional midwife Deb Studi. In the beginning of her career, she only did prenatal care and births. Lay midwives couldn't issue birth certificates or do health and hearing screenings, so things have come a long way since she began practicing in the mid-80s, including the ability to be reimbursed under Medicaid as of 2016. She is committed to advancing cultural humility as the gold standard in her work as a preceptor for new midwives, and believes that midwives should have a personal and professional investment in the future of inclusivity. Deb wants to acknowledge how we have just begun to step into the necessary work of supporting Black and Brown people as midwives. Eileen Nyhold is a certified nurse midwife who works with an independent practice of CNMs that only utilize doctors for consultations. Her ideal practice would serve women both in and out of the hospital. During her 24 years, she has seen the percentage of births attended by midwives increase from 1 to 10%, with Medicaid reimbursement not being available to them until 1985. Eileen established a bridge program at Sinai in Milwaukee that has allowed CPMs to do collaborative care with their CNMs and facilitated transfers from home that weren't secretive as a result. She is happy to see so many new midwives of all types being born and truly believes that birth is between our ears and we have the power to deny our labors or even stop them. I learned from Deb and Eileen that CPMs practice with more autonomy at homes or in freestanding birth centers, while CNMs can practice both in and out of hospitals in Wisconsin. CPMs can carry oxygen, use antibiotics, anti-hemorrhagic drugs, among others, but can't prescribe medicines such as birth control or offer well-woman gynecology like CNMs can. In Wisconsin, midwives collaborate with physicians, but neither type is required to work under them, although it's common for certified nurse midwives to work in practices owned by OBGYNs. It's easier now as the old order of patriarchal doctors has retired, Eileen said, but it has been a fight to be treated with respect and to have things such as water birth allowed in hospitals. There must be a level of personal comfort between doctors and CNMs to be allowed to practice as they would like. Time and more familiarity with midwifery have helped shift the paradigm, but it's still not all roses. CPMs need to cultivate good relationships with physicians so their clients can have collaborative care when additional tests or consultations are needed and when they risk out of care or need to transport to a hospital. State licensure has given them more of an equal power and ability to work with other healthcare providers, but finding physicians isn't always easy. CNMs and CPMs are legal and can obtain a license in Wisconsin. CNMs require a registered nurse's license and then complete a master's in midwifery program approved by the American College of Nurse Midwives. CPMs receive accreditation through the North American Registry of Midwives, NARM, exam and requirements. A student midwife can obtain a temporary permit to work under direct supervision of a licensed midwife while completing those requirements. Wisconsin has some of the least restrictive laws for CPMs in terms of autonomy and how they practice. They could attend VBACs, twins, or plan breech babies after consultation with a physician as required by the laws. The American College of Nurse Midwives was established in 1955 and has a state affiliate that CNMs can be members of. However, unless you are already a member, there is not much other than information on how to become a midwife available on their website. Guild of Wisconsin Midwives was founded in 1975 as an organization for all midwives who practice in out-of-hospital settings, and they meet 6 times a year in different locations. They have signed on to the Wisconsin Public Health's Anti-Racism Declaration and are collaborating with the March of Dimes Doulas of Color initiative. They have scholarships and grants available for students and those in their first year of practice who identify from marginalized populations. I spoke with Jane Peterson, the former president, and she feels that it's incredibly important to have a strong professional organization that is inclusive and representative, where we have the opportunity to create policies and do outreach. I could give an entire separate slideshow about Wisconsin's legalization efforts in 2006 after speaking with Catherine Hempel-Prawn, the woman who aided Jane Peterson and the Guild in getting it passed. Katie became involved in legalization in Virginia after her midwife was sentenced to 5 years in jail, and she subsequently helped Wisconsin with only a $3,000 budget. Wisconsin is currently the only state to get their law passed with just one try due to bipartisan support, a lot of hard work, and frankly, some magic. It was a grassroots movement for and by the people that included midwives, their clients, supporters, lawmakers, and their aides, just to name a few. The entire story is one of intrigue, last-minute saves, and enough subterfuge to make into a movie. Around 400 midwifery supporters showed up at the state capitol in Madison the day the bill was on the schedule for a vote. Half of them were plainclothes Amish and Mennonites, as you can see from this photo taken that day of Amish coats hanging in the Capitol. It was important to me to share the story of Wisconsin's remarkable legislation efforts to legalize midwifery because I saw it happen firsthand as one of the many supporters who wrote the letters, made phone calls, visited representatives, and witnessed democracy in action when the law was voted on at the Capitol. A year later, I was there when Jane Peterson received her historic first license in Wisconsin, and I hope to sign my own license with the pen I still have from that day. While there were many unsung heroes from that time, Jane felt it was important for me to share with you that 2 lawyers, Celia Jackson, Secretary of Wisconsin Department of Regulation and Licensing, and Ruby Jefferson Moore, who helped write the rules, were both remarkable women with powerful stories of their own. The fact that they were Black women who understood marginalized care changed the course of our licensure. I learned that having an excellent law that protects CPNs and their clients in Wisconsin or any state doesn't guarantee retention of these privileges. Midwives must remain vigilant and ready to fight and mobilize if our laws, such as the ability to attend VBACs, are ever threatened. As a generation of newer midwives, it's important to know the history and recognize its significance, as we are in the toddlerhood of being recognized as a profession. We stand on the backs of those that have come before us, according to Jane. I hope we continue to work towards legalization of midwifery care in all states and territories to better serve our future generations. Thank you.